What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV, and in this video, I want to talk about James Harden, who had a big night last night offensively for the Houston Rockets. And the Rockets 112-94 victory over the Memphis Grizzlies. James Harden scored 57 points, just the highest point total uh, of, I believe, this season. I'm trying to think if anybody scored more points than that this year. I don't think so. James Harden scored 57 points, which I believe is the NBA season high. And it's the second highest point total of his career. And the 57 points that he scored in yesterday's game ties the franchise. Actually, this ties the second highest mark in the franchise, held by Calvin Murphy, which once was the franchise record before James Harden broke that last year with the 60-point triple-double game that he had. But in last night's game, James Harden had 57 points to go along with 9 rebounds and 2 assists. He shot 17 of 33 from the floor, 6 of 15 from beyond the arc, and 17 of 18 from the foul line. And offensively, James Harden is on a roll. All right, I don't know why they keep calling it Kobe's record, because it's not a record. Kobe previously scored 30 or more points in 16 consecutive games. I think he did that during the 2005-2006 season. James Harden has now done it for 17 consecutive games. And, of course, this is something that we haven't seen now since the days of Wilt Chamberlain. And, of course, you're going to get a lot of hype out of this. But, I get I know I get a lot of flack as being a James Harden hater or something like that, which is further from the truth. There's some parts of this game that I admire. I always love the outside shooters. I think most fans like the outside shooters, but it's just that I think the game needs more balance, and there needs to be some type of return to the post score. And we're not really seeing it. Everything is so perimeter orientated or face up orientated. What happened to the days of Shaq and Barkley and Moses and Elijah on, where guys actually put their backs to the basket and showed their post game? That's not James Harden's fault. I don't blame him for that. But it's kind of sad that we don't see that anymore. But I think that what James Harden is doing needs to be taken into perspective to an extent. There have been various rule changes and playing styles that have opened the game up and make it easier for players to score. Now, I'm not nullifying the talent of these guys, but all I'm saying is, if you already have a talented scorer like a James Harden, and you open up the game to make it easier for these guys, then they're going to put up big numbers. And after last night's performance, James Harden is now averaging 34.8 points per game. And that's the highest scoring average that we've seen from an NBA player since Kobe Bryant 14 years ago. Wow, I can't believe that was 14 years ago that he did that. God damn. Man, I'm getting old. But, 2005, 2006. But anyway, or you can say 13 years ago, but whatever. But, James Harden is having let me be like this. Let me say the positive things. James Harden is almost single-handedly turning the Rockets season around. Now, they're not the dominant team that they were last year, okay? But this was a club that for much of the first, 25 or so games of the season. This was a club that was pretty much underwater. They were pretty much a sub 500 team, and the way they were playing, they didn't look like they were going to make the playoffs. Now with James Harden playing the way that he is, he's actually blowing his MVP numbers out the water, with the exception of his shooting percentage. But his shooting percentage has always been a little bit pedestrian. I know some guys be like, "Man, stop talking about his shooting percentage." I'm just a stickler for that. I'm sorry. I just like seeing 47, 48, 49 for a perimeter guy. I don't like seeing 42, 43. I don't know. It's just me, okay? I grew up in an era where efficiency was something that you strive for for a scorer. That's why a guy like Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, Shaquille O'Neal, these guys were Penny Hardaway. These were guys that were always efficient. Shaq always shot 57 to 60% from the floor. Barkley always shot 55 to 60% from the floor in his prime. As he got older and transitioned to being more of a jump shooter, a little bit more, then he shot more around 48 to 50%. Michael Jordan in his prime was always over 50%. Penny Hardaway before the injuries was always around 50%. You know what I'm saying? The guys who were called volume scorers could be exciting, but they didn't have the same. People didn't look at them the same way. I guess a volume scorer would be maybe Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell had nights where he might put up 35, 40 points. Then he might have a night where he scores 15 points on 6 of 17 shooting. That's just, him. But he affected the game in other areas. Sprewell was a very good defensive player. Matter of fact, I think when he was playing Alabama, he was known more for his defense than his scoring ability. And but that's just me, okay? Now, my knocks on James Harden is that he turns the ball over too much. Okay, he turns the ball over too much. He had 5 turnovers last night to go to 2 assists, but you get a pass when you score 57 points. So last night didn't really matter. Okay, and his defense is still subpar, to say the least. It's subpar. But offensively, you have to say, he's the most dominant offensive player. I'll just put it like that. He's the most dominant this season. You can take that to how you want to mean it. I'm not saying he's the best scorer. But, it depends on how you look at it. He certainly has a case averaging almost 35 points a game. But, as some of my subscribers have said to me, he makes up for the field goal percentage with his three-point accuracy. He's about 38% from behind the arc this year. And his ability to get to the free throw line. Last night, he was 17 of 18 from the foul line. I think he's averaging more than 11 free throws attempted per game this year, which is a career high. And he shoots them at a high clip. He's shooting like about 86% from the foul line, I think. So all of those things add together. You add all that together, a volume scorer who takes a lot of three-pointers, all right, makes a good percentage of his three-pointers, gets the foul line a lot, very good free throw shooter. Then you have the recipe for a guy that puts up big numbers. One thing I am concerned about with James Harden, though, is the toll this might take on him as the season progresses. To take that many shots, night in and night out, I think eventually that's going to wear on him. He has to do this. Now, I think when Chris Paul comes back, his shot attempts per game are going to go down a little bit. And hopefully he'll be able to pace himself for the postseason. But this one-on-one thing that James Harden doing right now is exciting to watch. But this isn't going to win you playoff games when defenses make certain adjustments. And in the playoffs, he doesn't tend to get the same calls they do during the regular season in certain games. So you got to hope that Chris Paul comes back. You got to hope that Clinton Capella comes back. I think Gordon is out, right? I think Gordon is injured. I might be wrong on that one. But when everybody comes back, then, James Harden is probably going to become more of a team-oriented player, drop back maybe more like 25 points per game, whatever, which in the long run is better for this club. But I got to tell you, though, man, he's impressive. I can understand some people criticizing him for his shot selection and, the volume of shots he takes and things like that. But, this is the NBA today, all right? This is just the product. I don't want to turn into one of these guys who become, like, my day was better, get off my yard. I don't want to become one of those guys, man. I have my opinions, and I always reflect those. But at the same time, the game is what it is. And I can't just sit back there and just always hate the NBA because it's not playing the way I think it should be played. Whatever. That's just my opinion. But tell me what you guys think.